Hi listeners, I'm Anna Kaszycki, world champion rower with 3 international degrees and now youth mentor and coach. This is the Aspire Beyond Greatness podcast, where I share inspiring individual stories to empower you to achieve your goals and future life pursuits. If you enjoyed the podcast today, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Have a great day, and remember, go after what you want. Welcome to the Aspire Beyond Greatness podcast. We have a very special guest with us today, Tasmin Young. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tasmin.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's wonderful to be with you, Anna. Thank you.
No worries. And for our audience, Tasmin is a certified practicing accountant, and she's also a make a profit money coach. So she's helping female entrepreneurs to build their business. And I want to sort of dive in to a little bit what we were talking about before, which is the idea of your 14-year-old self. And if you could think back to your younger self, what would be some advice that you would give to that person?
I think the most important thing is to be true to yourself, because we are so conditioned by society to go out there and do the norm and do what's expected of us and have that safe and secure, or the perceived safe and secure life of get a job and work at that. And we end up sort of squashing dreams and our goals and just living a life of mediocrity. And there's so much opportunity out there for people to dream big and do so much and create so much change in the world, and to create a better life for themselves and for the current world and for the generations to come.
Definitely. I love that. Don't always go with what society tells you to. There's so much more out there. And I think, just to give you a little bit of background about something that I've been fortunate enough to do. So a couple of years ago now, I had a rowing scholarship and I studied in the US. And I had a lot of friends who were also really talented and could have taken up the opportunity, but they stayed back to be with their families, or, they had opportunities in Australia that really suited them. For me, it was sort of a no-brainer. I didn't have much in Australia that was keeping me here, both financially and educationally. Although I would miss my family, it seemed like a really good thing to take at the time. And so I took it, and it ended up being one of the best opportunities of my life. And I'm really glad I did, but at the time it didn't seem that, probably the most common thing that most people would do. And, in life you get all these different things that come up. So being able to take something that might not be the most common, I think is a really good idea. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah. So when these opportunities come, and you don't have to be the most talented person. You don't have to be the brightest person. You don't have to have all the answers. Life is about growing and learning as you go. It's I know, as being an accountant, we very much are very linear, logical, and you want the little blueprint that you can follow, and everything must be nice and neat and all that. But life isn't like that. Life can be very messy, and it really is. We need to be encouraged to take, I use the word risks, but calculated risks, I think, is a better term for it, that you don't want to be silly with the things you do, but sometimes you truly just have to follow your heart and you go, wow. And particularly when you're young, doesn't mean that when you're older you can't do it, but certainly when you're young, when opportunities arise, go for them, because you can always come back. You don't have to start your earning career at age 20 so that you can have a good retirement fund. You've got the opportunities, make the most of them.
Definitely. I like to think of it now, I'm still, I guess quite young, but having the idea that, you're only 20 once, you're only 18 once, you're only 14 once, and sort of being able to acknowledge that and understand that when you're at that age, to just make the most of that time, because, you don't want to look back on it when you're older and say, oh, I could have done that. Maybe I should have done that. It's important to embrace it. So like you said, calculated risks is really good.
Yeah, and the truth is that you only ever one age once as well, and life doesn't stop when you get to 25 or 30 or 50 or 70. There's people who have done things and whose life or career has only started at a later age. But again, you don't have to wait till then. You don't have to wait until the children have left home. I'm going to get married, have children, and then when they've gone, then I'll do something. Because I can tell you, life is short. It doesn't seem like that when you're younger. But I'm in my 50s, and recently a school friend of mine died. Now, at age, in your 50s, you don't expect that to happen, but it happens, and it makes you realize that you can't wait until the perfect opportunity for following your dreams, because you've got no guarantee that you may be here in your 50s, in your 60s or 70s. So it really is, when opportunities are there, take them up. And being able to travel is one of the most wonderful experiences you can have, because it gives you a wonderful appreciation for your home, certainly for us here in Australia. The beautiful country we live in and the opportunities that we have here is phenomenal. And you just get to see different cultures and how different ways of living.
Definitely. I think you learn so much when you travel, because you're able to see so many different things, you know, the people, the culture, just a different lifestyle. And when you're in one place, you know, you get really used to that, but you're not really sure what else is around. So I think that's really good. You've obviously got a really good opportunity to influence and support female entrepreneurs and like-minded people in the work that you're doing. And I'm interested to know, how did you decide on the career that you have?
Well, I suppose I got into the accounting world. It just kind of fell into place, and you made choices at school, and that led to what I studied at university. And then I was doing part-time work and decided to do my articles, and things just kind of flowed. And I grew up in South Africa, and we immigrated to Australia in 1997. And the natural thing was to just carry on with the kind of work that I was doing. And I've had over 30 years in the accounting tax world, and I've seen a lot of things in that time. I've worked mainly with small businesses, but the biggest thing that I've seen is what happens to women. Divorce is not uncommon in this day and age, and women will often end up in the position where they not only are divorced and on their own looking after children, but they don't have a qualification that they can get out there and get a good job, and that they don't have the money skills, and that they don't have that earning capacity that a man might have. So I saw that women really need to be able to build up the skills and have that confidence, and not wait until something like divorce happens to them. Or it doesn't even have to be divorce. Sometimes what happens in a marriage, something might happen to the husband, he may be injured, and she has to step into the role of being the main breadwinner. And it then becomes a battle, because now she's a carer for her husband, plus she's trying to run a household and be a mother to the children, plus she's trying to bring money in. So it can be quite a strain for them. And I want to see young women feeling confident with their money. I want to see young people confident with their money, but particularly women, because we aren't taught to believe that we need to look after our money. We grow up in this fairy tale world of happily ever after, Prince Charming coming along. Daddy looked after us as we were growing up, and then Prince Charming will come along and kiss the princess, and we'll live happily ever after, and we'll be looked after, and we won't have any problems. And life doesn't work out that way. The fairy tales never go into the happily ever after bit in too much detail. And women need to have those skills, that they can look after themselves, that they can be financially independent, that they can be financially savvy. And women are, but they don't believe it. They manage their budgets when they are running a household, but they still don't believe that they have those skills. They feel shame and guilt about money. They feel embarrassed asking for people to pay them for their services. They often feel that they should be giving their services for free, and they just end up in a lot of burnout. So I differentiate myself from working with women to increase their income. I'm looking at people who've already got an established business, they've got steady clients, but at the end of the day, they're not actually making a profit. There's a big difference between the income in your business and the profit of your business. The income is from your sales, and the profit is what's left over after you've taken away the expenses. So a business may be earning $1 million, but it may only have $10,000 profit at the end of the day, and you've got nothing to show for all the hard work that you've done. So I want women to be able to make a profit in their business, that they are being rewarded for the work that they're doing. When they are doing well in their business, that has a ripple effect in their life, that they can live the life of their dreams. It has a ripple effect into their family, that the way that their children grow up and what their children believe, and that then ripples out into the community in how they can help other businesses, because they will be looking at having other people help them in their business or in their household, and that lifts up other families. So one of my favorite quotes is, "A rising tide lifts all boats." So by a woman being financially successful, she enables other businesses to be financially successful, and then that just raises the whole community.
That's beautiful. I love that quote. I'm definitely going to hang on to that one.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think
Very
there's so
powerful.
much knowledge that you have, and I guess sort of different experience working with women here. And I think it's a good point to sort of segue. You know, you mentioned a few things like that, you know, there's no such thing as sort of everyone having a perfect fairy tale, and just the ripple effect that I really loved. So the idea that, you know, if a woman is financially successful, that it can sort of go into other areas of her life and then build others up. I think that's really important. And I'd just love to know, Tamsin, you know, throughout not only your work, but, you know, other parts of your life, what has been your greatest lesson?
Being willing to accept help, because it's another downfall that we have as women. We believe that we need to do everything ourselves, and yeah, we don't. And part of this whole ripple effect is the difference that in the way that women do business. And I believe in a more collaborative way of doing business, as opposed to the current paradigm, which is very competitive and dog eat dog type world, and there's not enough business, so I've got to outdo you, so that I can do well, and you know, sort of squash you down. Whereas women approach it from a working together, and there's enough business and work out there that I can be successful and you can be successful too. So that willingness to go, okay, I don't have all the answers, or I can't do everything myself, I'm willing to have somebody else help me. And I learned this lesson reasonably recently. My husband had an accident about 18 months ago, and he was severely injured. And when he came back, he was up in Darwin, I'm in Perth. And when he came back, a lady that I know, she organized for people to make meals for us. So every night, every day we would put outside an esky, and somebody would come and put a meal in there for us, and we'd just bring it in, and that would be our meal for the day, so that we didn't have to think about making a meal. And I used to go, oh, I've got to do something for these people. I've got to make a card. I've got to buy a little gift for them. I've got to repay them in some way. And I thought about it, and I thought, no, would I be expecting, if I was doing that for somebody else, would I be expecting them to do that for me? And the answer was no, that all they wanted was the appreciation and to know that they could help me. And it was a massive step to go, you know what, all I have to do is say thank you and be extremely grateful that they were there, that pressure was taken off me of thinking, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? What have we got in the fridge tonight? What can I make? And then, of course, the time and energy required to actually make the dinner. And it's a small thing, but it's a big thing. It was a major, major thing for me to have that pressure off, because I'm actually not particularly good in the kitchen either. So, it's, you know, for me, it's a major brain, I don't know, whatever, blowing my brain to try and think of cooking something. My husband normally does the cooking, so having him out of action for nearly 2 months, you know, it really knocked me for 6. And when you're trying to keep everything going, to have that taken away from me was such a major blessing. And these people, I didn't even know half of these people who did it. It was just people in the community. They were asked, make a meal, and they just put their name down on a list, drop something off, and that was it. And it was the most beautiful gift, and being able to accept that gift from them, and realizing that, yeah, that is okay, and that is how we can help people.
Definitely. It's such a huge part of your story, I guess, relating to, you you know, whether it's young people or women, or, you know, whether this aligns with you, but this idea of people pleasing,
Yeah.
and feeling that we're not able to just be okay with someone giving, and that we need to give back to that. And I've been very guilty of that for a long time. So your story really resonated with me. And I love the idea of present-minded thinking, and just accepting that in that moment it's okay to accept that help without feeling that you need to give more and to give back to that.
Well, there's a quote out there that gets bandied around a lot of, it is better to give than to receive. And it always actually annoys me a bit, because you cannot give without somebody being receiving on the other side. It's a two-way street. And in receiving, you're actually giving back to the other person. So you need to honor the person who is receiving, because they're allowing you the gift to be able to give. And when you don't allow yourself to receive, or it becomes a case of, oh, well, she bought me a drink, therefore I owe her now. You accept that as a gift, and maybe you don't buy that person a drink, maybe you go and buy somebody else a drink. It doesn't have to be a tit for tat and, okay, well, I'm equal with you, and moving through. So it is also good to receive, even if it's something as small as receiving a compliment. Sometimes we have problems with just receiving a compliment and going, oh, what, this old thing, you know, I've had it for ages, or it only cost me $5 at the reject shop. Just go, somebody says you look good in that, you go, well, thank you. And just accept it as being that. Receive that compliment, receive that gift with gratitude.
Yeah, it can be really empowering to have that happen. And I think that's phenomenal advice for younger people, to be able to accept those things. It's kind of like if you get a good grade in school. I used to be terrible about that, actually, just accepting if someone tells you, oh yeah, you did really well, or, you know, if you're an athlete, oh, you know, you played really well in that game, match, event, whatever it is, just accept that, because there might be a time in life where you might not be as good at that thing, or it's just about being grateful in that moment. So I think that's great.
And I think for young people as well, being willing to ask for help and willing to ask for advice, because it's another thing that society doesn't seem to appreciate, the older generations and the wisdom that they have. Yes, sometimes it makes them fearful and go, oh, you've got to be careful, and they want to put a lid on youngsters, and that this is where they become risk averse, and oh, you mustn't do this because it might affect your future and whatever. But sometimes they can have wonderful advice because they've been through the experiences. They may have been an athlete and can say, hey, well, this is the experience I had, this is what I would have done differently. It doesn't mean it's the right thing, but it can give you some confidence in knowing, or that they made the mistakes and they're still here to talk about it afterwards. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be perfect. It's about living life imperfectly and enjoying it as you go along, and not beating yourself up when things don't work out as you anticipated, and just going with the flow.
Definitely. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm interested to know, I'm sure that, you know, in your life, you've obviously had a lot of lessons and some really great advice to give. And I would love to know, what has been your greatest setback?
The greatest setback was probably when my husband had his accident, but as I say, we're still working through things with that. And as I say, I've learned a lot of accepting help and things like that. But I think the biggest lesson I had was when I was studying at university, and I failed a year. And I'd always done well at school with very little effort and all that. So I thought I knew everything when I was at university and I didn't have to work. And it came as a bit of a shock to me that I did actually have to put in some effort to do the work. And it was the best lesson that I could have. Failing can sometimes be the most richest experience that you can have, because one, the world doesn't come to an end just because you failed a year or failed a subject or something. And it makes you realize, like, okay, I do need to, if this is what I want to do, I need to work towards it. It doesn't matter what my natural ability is, I still need to have some drive and determination to get through it. Yeah, and you can have a qualification, and it doesn't mean that it was an easy road, but you've had the persistence to carry on working towards it and get there at the end.
Definitely. I think my favorite part about that is that, yeah, there's no sort of perfect timing on anything, and that you can have goals for yourself, but you don't have to achieve them exactly, maybe when you thought you would. Life can sometimes throw you some different curveballs, and you have to be able to go with it.
Absolutely. Your goals, I read somewhere, to write your goals in sand or something, that they don't have to be in concrete, that if it doesn't happen when you think it will happen, it's okay. It doesn't mean it won't happen, or it may not happen the way that you think it will be. Just be open and flexible, and realize that things can happen differently. And maybe the universe has got a better plan for you.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. It's difficult to know when you're young, or even just at any point in life, what might happen next. But yeah, having that optimism and openness to change, that's really good.
Mm. And I think remembering the fact that Einstein asked the question, do you think the universe is a friendly or an unfriendly place? And if you believe that it's a friendly place and you can trust it and that opportunities will come to you, then you're going to get that. I mean, I don't mean sit in your room and wait for somebody to come and knock on your door. You do have to get out there and meet people. And if somebody says something, you don't go, well, that sounds like a good opportunity, but not say something about it. It's ask more questions about it, and be willing to be rejected as well. Just because somebody says no, it's like failure. Just because somebody says no to you doesn't mean that opportunity to go, oh, well, I asked one person and they said no. Well, obviously that was a bad idea. If people who have written books, sometimes they've done 200 applications before they found somebody who would publish their book. It's a lot of going around and asking, and a lot of rejection that they've had. And then they've gone on to make an absolute $1 million bestseller. I'm thinking of that book, The Chicken Soup for the Soul or something, where they had massive rejection for that, and it's ended up a phenomenal success. So you have to have your vision, what you want, and be willing to hang on to that vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think believing in yourself, along with everything else that you said, is, yeah, that's exactly what you want to have to succeed. Because yeah, it might take a few times where you fail before you will make it. So yeah, definitely. And what are you most proud of?
Probably my children, the fact that I got them to adulthood as well in one piece. Yeah, it's being a parent is, nobody prepares you for that. Nobody can prepare you for that. And children are very special. It's, if you want to know what true love is, that's becoming a parent really teaches that unconditional love, and just that it's almost that contrast of, you want to just envelop this child in your total love and protect them from everything, but it's also that standing back and you're there for them and you're supporting them and you're encouraging them, because at the end of the day you can't live their life for them and you can't provide them with everything that they've got to. You've got to be willing to step back and allow them to be hurt, which sounds really harsh, but that's the way that they grow, through their experiences, through making mistakes and things like that. So it's a really challenging experience bringing up children, and thinking, oh, they've got to go out into the world and make it themselves, and I can't do everything for them. When they're a baby, yes, you can be there and you provide everything for them, but as they get older and older, it's tough. It really is tough, but it comes back to that trust and love. I always believe the most essential thing that you can give your child is love, and the fact that they know that you love them and are always there for them and supporting them, and trusting that if you allow them to tap into what they really want, that they will be able to live a good life. And instead of filling them with fear of, oh, don't try that, don't do that. So it can be a very scary road. And am I doing the right thing? Was I right letting them making that decision? Should I have told them to do something else? And bottom line is, you never know, because you never know what the alternative would have been if they had gone down the other route.
Definitely. It sounds as though parenting is not only complex, but I guess, yeah, like you said, having patience and trust. And I think a lot of it is that every child is individual as well. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, when we had our daughter, she was probably about a year old or something. We thought we knew everything about parenting, and we thought, oh, let's have another child. So my son was then born, and you go, well, I know what to do because I've had a baby, and you treat them the same way, and of course they don't react the same way, and you go, oh, what happened? Yeah, didn't he read the manual? So yes, and I mean, we only had two children. You think of people who've got 4 children or 6 children, and you think you've got 6 individual people, and they are. It's, even though you love them the same, they are different people, and it seems like, oh, well, you love that one more than me because you let them do that. No, that's the way that they need to be treated, and it is. It's just, things are different. You can't cookie cutter them. Just because one did this doesn't mean that the other one will do that as well. You have to be willing to be open and flexible. It goes just with the rest of life, that there are no cookie cutter experiences. You can get guidance on how things will happen, but it doesn't mean that you will get the same outcome, because that may not be the best result for you.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't have children, but I've worked a bit with them in terms of coaching and work, and I think you have the option of, you support them for only a limited amount of time, and then the parents have them for a way longer time. And it's in those moments throughout the day, every day, that I'm sure you see and learn and have so much. Young people, while they might have moments of getting frustrated or upset at people that are older than them, hopefully if they do have kids one day, can sort of see the challenges that you experience in those situations.
Oh, there's nothing like becoming a parent for discovering what your parents did for you, and having a newfound gratitude for what your parents went through. I know I certainly did. It's like so many experiences, and that's, as we were saying earlier, you're only at one age at one time. You only go through these experiences. Even having children, having a second child is different to having a first child, because you have another child around when you're bringing up the second child, which you didn't have when you had the first child. So even though you may be going through the same experience, it's different. As an athlete, if one competition is different to the other, the conditions are different, your competitors are different. There's so many different factors. You're in a different space. Your health may be in a different space. So there's a quote that says something about, you can never step into the same water in the river twice, because the water that's flowing past is always different. And as I say, even though you can be doing the same thing, what appears to be the same thing, it's different, because the world is different today than it will be tomorrow and what it was yesterday. So it's to take our blinkers off and to be in the moment. Being in the moment is so important, and really doing some soul searching and tuning into ourselves, allowing ourselves the space to be able to do that, allowing our children the space to be able to do that, to find out what really lights them up. We spend so much time being busy and doing things, and yes, I know we want to achieve things and experience things and make the most of life, but there's nothing better we can do than taking the time out to actually just tune into, right, what is the best thing for me? Because at the end of the day, the wisdom that we have is within us. We don't need to be searching for it outside. We've got all the answers, but sometimes it's just good to have other people give us some advice, be a sounding board, and just being a guidance.
Definitely. Yeah, it sounds as though as a parent, you're basically their rock, and there's a lot of guidance there. So yeah, you've got a wealth of experience to share. So thank you for that. I have this idea that I want to share with you, and that is that I believe that from the minute that people wake up in the morning, as they go about their day, as a CPA and helping female entrepreneurs, helping your kids and your family, to the minute that you go to bed at night, everyone has a certain set of skills and values that they bring when they turn up in life. It could be that they're really genuine or really positive or really confident. So what do you believe that you bring when you turn up?
2 things I would say is, one is I'm good at listening, and through that I believe in supporting the person to have the skills to. I want to teach the person to fish, not to just feed them the fish, so that they can become independent. So I don't consider myself to be an enabler that, oh, let me help you with that, let me do that for you. Yes, I will help you to the extent that you will be learning to do that for yourself, or being able to look at how you can be supported in that way. So it's really a case of helping people find the resources within themselves to do it, and to believe in themselves that they can do what they're wanting to do.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you're willing to teach someone how to fish rather than so that they become dependent. And I think that's the best kind of teacher, is someone that lets you, it's a fine line, isn't it, a little bit,
Oh,
because being able
yeah,
to teach and then letting them go out and do things. I'm sure as a parent as well, you've had a ton of experience with that.
absolutely. It's a very fine balance, and the people can obviously come with their insecurities and things like that. So it's a case of being there for them, supporting them, getting them to the stage where they can believe in themselves. And some of it is just pure education of, right, this is what your numbers mean, this is the story that they're telling you, and just educating them on that, because sometimes that is, people just haven't been taught the basics. So there is some practical skills there, but a lot of it is internal work and self-belief and growing and having that courage to be able to act. So being there for the person to go, it's okay, you can do it, I'm here with you, I will be here and I'll be your cheerleader. And then as they grow in their confidence, it's like that little bird being able to fly out the nest, and they go, oh, okay, I can fly on my own. And they move on to the next stage in their life.
Yeah, I love that. I actually saw a video recently, and it's of this little girl, and she's trying to jump onto this box that just looks way too big for her.
Yeah.
And she falls over once and twice and, repetitively, but she just keeps going until she gets there. And even when she seems really close and she falls down again, I think it's her dad who's standing there and encouraging her. But it's a message as well for, as you get older, to, keep being able to have that same kind of, I guess, fearlessness, that even if you fail a few times, that you'll get there, maybe on the next one, but to keep trying anyway.
The thing is, you never know when you will have that breakthrough. And yes, if that dream is burning bright within you, you just have to hang on to that and keep going. And sometimes that's when you need to reach out and ask for help and be willing to accept help, because sometimes you may just be banging your head against the wrong door or wall. Maybe some advice will just spark that light and you go, aha, and you find another way that does provide you with the solution that you're looking for. But yeah, to have that determination and that persistence, there's no replacement for that.
Definitely. And you need a good mentor and support for that to happen as well. So yeah, a good person, such as yourself, who's trying to teach someone the skill rather than doing it for them, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to look at any professional athlete. They all have coaches. The number one tennis player, they don't go, well, I'm number one, I don't need anybody. They still have someone teaching them or coaching them and being there and supporting. They know how to play tennis, but it's all those other skills that they have, and having that cheerleader there for them.
Definitely. Yeah, that's how you learn to be better. And what inspires you every day, would you say? So could it be a person, a place, or a situation?
I think basically nature itself inspires me, just the way that every day the sun comes up and goes back down again. I know the world's turning around, but it's the cycles of nature, of how it goes through the growth and bearing the fruit, and then the fallow season and winter, but it all comes back again. And that's what life is like as well, just having these seasons that okay, you may be going through a tough time, but the good times will come as well. As much as you have sorrow, you also have joy. And I know people often refer to, they go, oh, 2018, I can't wait for 2019. It's been such a terrible year. And often people say that about every year because there was something terrible happened. But there's also so many good moments, and it's just like every season has its beauty. We can look at winter as being very dull and solitary and things like that, but it's such a beautiful time for being able to reflect and go within, and then you come back rejuvenated in springtime and bursting forth in flowers in summertime. So I think nature has so much to teach us.
Yeah, definitely. I love that idea of, equal light and dark, and yeah, I guess the flowers changing and the seasons changing. It's like us, we grow and evolve, and I think it's really funny that you mentioned that, because yeah, a lot of people do sort of say, oh, I can't wait for this year to be over and then the next one. And I guess when you're young, you kind of just, you're living your life and you're growing and changing, but it is important to sort of reflect on, the good things that have happened too, so that you're able to appreciate them, when you might have a bad time as well.
And as I say, generally, if you look and you think back on your year, there have been good times, there have been good moments, and it's very easy to be brought down by a bad situation or a tragedy or something like that. But you can't let those dictate the whole flavor of the year.
Definitely. And I'd love to know, who has been your biggest supporter?
Probably my husband, because he always is just there for me, and he never knocks any of my somewhat ideas can be somewhat out there as well, and he never tells me that I'm crazy. He might think it, but he never says it. So he's never stopped me doing anything that I wanted to do. So it's always encouraging to know that somebody's out there flying the flag for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think that any good, community relationship, it's so important to have people in your life that, love and support you. So that's really good to hear. I'm sure with raising kids, it's awesome to have that support and that person alongside you.
Absolutely, it makes a difference, and it's essential that we find people in our lives who can do that for us.
Yeah, definitely. I want to finish up by saying thank you so much, Tamsin, for joining us today on the podcast. And my three main takeaways from what we've spoken about today was that you mentioned about embracing opportunities. And so for those of us out there that might feel that we want to steer off, the societal expectations, that's okay. And we're allowed to be able to go after the things that we want. And the next thing was your quote that I absolutely loved, which is, a rising tide lifts all boats. And just this idea, even the visual is really cool, that if you can lift other people up around you, then it will be a ripple effect. And it's just really important for everyone to be able to do that. And also to ask for help when you need it. And no matter what stage you are in life, it's so important to be able to ask others, for advice or for help and support when we feel that we need it. Thank you so much for bringing that for us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to share with you, Anna.
No worries. And before I let you go, what is the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Either on my website, tamsinyoung.com, or on my Facebook page, Your Prosperity Goddess.
Perfect. So make sure to check in with Tamsin there. And thank you so much for tuning in today. And check out our podcast on iTunes.